So, what do the 1907 Cubs and the 2021 Brewers have in common? No, Bob Euchre's not the correct answer. Stay tuned to find out. All new Locked On Cubs, Friday edition, coming up now.
You are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, Locked On family. Welcome on in. You are indeed Locked On Cubs, and this is indeed part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hi, everybody. Andrew Bellison, your host. I was the public address announcer at Wrigley Field for a long time, and now I am thrilled and humbled and honored to be part of the Locked On Cubs family here with Locked On Cubs. Thank you for making us your first listen on this wonderful Friday morning. We appreciate it more than you know. And also, we'd love for you to engage with us on social media. YouTube, that's social enough, right? Check out our Locked On Cubs YouTube page. We'd love your subscription there. That would be awesome. And on Twitter, like to have some fun. Let's talk. Let's be respectful of each other's opinions. Have some fun. Talk some Cubs baseball. NL Central, at Chicago Cubs PA, at Locked On Cubs. We're going to preview a Friday afternoon 120 Cubs Brewers contest later on. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. 120 on a Friday at Wrigley. Come on. Baseball season is back. We continue our opening day week celebration. We're going to let this thing go for as long as we can. Also, how can the Cubs opening day roster, we'll call it the opening day roster, have 35 players on it? Did somebody screw up? Before we hop into all of that, I want to help you. Help me help you. Isn't that the old adage? I want to make you sound smarter this year. When you're talking baseball with your buddies, when it comes to the Cubs and the NL Central as a whole, I'm going to make you the expert. How so? Let me paint the picture. You're with your friends, little group of buddies, your father-in-law, your neighbor. They start chiming in. You see the Cubs score this and that. You want to impress them, right? Well, maybe you don't follow the Cubs and baseball religiously or Locked On Cubs. Shame on you if that's the case. I kid. But you got to hold your own in these conversations with the other boys and girls, right? So help me help you. I have an awesome statistic or factoid about each National League Central team that you can use to wow your friends, even if you don't know what the hell you're talking about. This is good stuff. And I got a little teaser. The Cubs stat is going to blow your mind. Let's start with the Crew. The opposition in town this weekend for the opening four-game series of the year. Aces abound for the Crew. The starting rotation they had, and we're seeing it firsthand, we've talked about it at length, led by its young arms, figures to carry the Brewers again in 2022, as we have said. It did last year. Corbin Burnes and Brandon Woodruff became the first pair of qualifying pitchers under the age of 30 to post ERA plus figures of at least 165 since Louis Tiant and Sam McDowell did so for Cleveland in 1968. Yes, I said 1968, 53 years. Add in Freddie Peralta, who's a 3 on the Brewers staff, could probably be a 1 on a lot of other staffs around the league, and Adrian Hauser, and the Crew was the first. Now get this, the Crew was the first squad since your 1907 Cubs, and they had a pretty good team that year, if you recall, to have 4 pitchers younger than the age of 30 with 140-plus innings and at least a 130 ERA plus. What are we getting at? Brewers pitching staff is good. Leave it at that if the Brewers come up in your baseball conversation. Maybe your neighbor's from St. Louis originally, a Cardinal fan. You want to impress them. Well, Albert Pujols, Cardinal legend, is back in Cardinal red and white. Did you know that? You probably did. He's a future Hall of Famer. It's one last hurrah with the Redbirds, a team he left in free agency after the 2011 season. I cannot still believe that it's been that long, but it has. When Pujols plays his first regular season game for the Cardinals on opening day, he has gone now 10 seasons between a World Series win, 2011 St. Louis, and playing again for that club. He was in LA for that long. That'll be the most seasons in between a World Series win and a player's next game with the franchise ever. Ever. Pretty cool. How about the Pirates, the lonely Pirates? Have you been to PNC, though? PNC Park, one of my favorite ballparks in all of baseball, let alone the National League. Even with just 96 games played last year in 2021 due to injury, Pirates young phenom kid Brian Hayes still made an impact, especially with the leather. And you know how much we love defense at Locked On Cubs. He had plus 13 outs above average at third base, second most at the position behind only Matt Chapman, who was plus 17. What's the difference, say you? Chapman played 150 games at third base last year. Hayes played 95, and he's still outpaced perennial Gold Glover Nolan Arenado, among others. What are we saying? You want to really turn some heads to those who really know the game? Tell them the Pirates are built for tomorrow. They're contenders in 2024 and beyond. You might get some noodle scratching, but they'll come back in a few years and say, hey, that guy knows what he's talking about. The lowly Reds, Joey Votto, social media's latest star, still a veritable power hitter. In fact, he made more power, a bigger part of his game in 2021, sacrificing a few more swings and misses for 53.2% hard hit rate. This was actually his highest mark in any season tracked by StatCast since 2015. So he increased his hard hit rate by 17.5 percentage points from 2020 to 2021, by far the highest such increase of any qualifier. As a matter of fact, 4.5 percentage points ahead of the next largest increase on the list, Tyler O'Neill. Prepare for more power from the elder statesman in 2022. And at this juncture, when you're talking to your family or friends or neighbor after the Reds' recent overhaul, you can insert the Reds joke of late. Do they have anyone left on the team? Or I thought they traded Votto too. And finally, back to our Cubs. And this is a dandy. If you're part of the Locked On family, you have heard me loving on Nick Madrigal for the entire winter. Second baseman Nick Madrigal is going to be a player to watch this year at second base and at the top of the order. I've said this again and again. What do I love about him? Leadoff, prototypical leadoff type player, contact guy, right? Nick Madrigal, this is going to blow your mind, makes contact like few others in today's game. It's the home run strikeout era of baseball, and we know that. What's his nickname due to this? Nicky Two Strikes. Yes, the same guy that patrolled the streets of Chicago in the late 20s. No, I'm kidding. During his tenure with the Sox from 2020 to 2021, Madrigal's .299 batting average in two strike counts was far and away the best in the majors. I'm going to say it one more time. He hit .299 with two strikes. That is unheard of. Only 8 others who had a minimum of 100 two-strike at-bats even reached the 250 mark. So he blew away everybody. Do you know what the major league average was with two strikes during that time span? $167. Madrigal, $299, over 130 points above league average. Are you serious? As serious as my first old style on opening day. One of the reasons I've been loving on Madrigal so much is he sits atop the Cubs order. Awesome, awesome stuff. How can the Cubs opening day roster be set at 35 players? Somebody must have made a mistake, right? We'll dive into that shortly. Before we do, I want to remind you about Built Bar. It is the time of year that your New Year's resolutions have been thrown out the window. Opening day's here. It's time for libations and good ballpark food. However, as we've been saying, if you have incorporated Built Bar into your daily diet plan, it makes it easier to stick to your resolutions and make a healthier you in 2022. I didn't mean for that to rhyme. Have you tried the Built Bar Puffs? If you haven't, you're missing out. It's literally one of Built Bar's best tasting products. It's the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. I know you didn't know that existed, but it did. They're really fluffy, they're really marshmallowy, and they have awesome, awesome flavors. Cinnamony churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. That's one of my go-tos. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, which is great, Puffs included. They're low-cal, they're high protein, They replace your candy bars and therefore make you healthier. A lot of candy bars have like 240 calories, tons and tons of sugar. Sugar depletes your immune system, wipes out your body. Built bars are like 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and best of all, they're loaded with protein. Mint brownie, coconut almond. The flavors are great, and they have rotating special flavors. So sometimes there's different ones that you might not have had. Do me a favor. Get healthier, stay healthier. Go to built.com, use promo code LOCK15. You get 15% off your order. You'll feel better, and you're going to enjoy eating Built Bar. Built.com, promo code LOCK15. We take a look at the Cubs roster mistakes, or we think, coming up in a sec. Cubs fans, welcome back in. This is Locked On Cubs. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Thank you for taking the time on a wonderful Friday to stop by and be part of the Locked On Cubs family. Check us out on YouTube, our Locked On Cubs page. We'd love your subscription on YouTube. Also love to engage with you on social media at Locked On Cubs, at Chicago Cubs PA. We try to have as much fun on there as we can. Would love to have you along for the ride. And I want to thank you for taking me along for the ride as part of the Locked On Cubs family. We thank you for finding us. We're free and available wherever you download your favorite cast. And making us your first listen every morning means more to me than I can even tell you. So thank you 1,000 times over. Want to remind you, too, that Locked On MLB Prospects host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. And he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. Free and available, just like Locked On Cubs, wherever you source your favorite cast. So we wait and wait and wait all spring, all winter, all spring to see what your favorite team, our Cubs, decide to do with their opening day roster. We'll call it the opening day roster, even though we're past that. We're past that glorious day. I want to explain why there's so many players on the Cubs' current, and I air quote this, opening day roster as it stands. These are a couple topics we've hit on, but not since the official opening day roster was released yesterday. First and foremost, Major League Baseball has allowed expanded rosters for each club early in the season to combat what they had to deal with the lockout and the shortened spring. So each team's carrying a few extra bodies here early on in an effort to eliminate more injury, help out the manager. You need a little extra help. You didn't have much time to get into what I'll call game shape because spring training was so condensed. Okay, let's dive in. Let me explain. As it stands right now, the Cubs have 14 pitchers plus 5 on the injured list, 6 infielders plus 2 on the injured list, 6 outfielders, and a couple of catchers. Okay? The typical 25-man roster, then expanded a few. We've blown past that number. How does that even work? The Cubs have 3 players right now on the 10-day injured list. And what the league has allowed each team to do is make these retroactive to April 4th, which was essentially the end of spring training. So that means they're really not out for 10 days, but technically on paper they are. Does that make sense? Because they're already 3 days in, but the season just started today. So it's like a 7-dayer, more or less. Who are these players that are on the 10-day injured list for the Cubs? Right-hander Alec Mills with a low back strain. Left-hander Wade Miley, he's got elbow inflammation in his left elbow. You know about this. We've discussed this. And Andrelton Simmons, talked a lot about him as well. Simmons has the shoulder inflammation in his right throwing shoulder. Okay, so there's 3 on the opening day roster, but really not because they're on the 10-day injured list, which is really the 7-day injured list because it's retroactive to the 4th. You following me here? I don't mean to make your head hurt on a Friday. The weekend is almost here. So let's go down the pitchers. 14 due to the expanded roster, plus 5 that are hurt. Starting pitcher-wise, you've got Stroman, you've got Drew Smyly, you've got Wade Miley, who's on the shelf, Kyle Hendricks, your opening day starter, and Alec Mills, who's also on the shelf. Justin Steele gets the ball later on today in game 2 of the 4-game series with the Brewers. Okay. There's your starting pitchers, healthy and or not healthy. What about the bullpen? Cody Hoyer, 60-day injured list. Unfortunately, we know the backstory on him. Ethan Roberts, he's in the pen. David Robertson, he's healthy and in the pen. Brad Wick, left-hander, also on the 60-day shelf, okay? Jesse Chavez, we know, we've discussed him. Daniel Morris, the left-hander, another southpaw option for the Cubs and David Ross. Rowan Wick, healthy and in the pen. Scott Efros, he's ready to roll. Chris Martin as well. Michael Rucker, the veteran, Michael Givens, Keegan Thompson, right-hander as well. Adbert Alzolay, another arm that we thought the Cubs would count on pretty heavily this year, especially potentially in that rotation. He's on the 60-day shelf as well. How does the landscape here change, or how is this different than essentially what we expected? Well, first and foremost, we expect Simmons back quickly, and we expect Wade Miley back quickly as well, we hope. Same can be said for Mills. So Miley returns first, we hope. He was slotted to be at the top of the Cubs rotation, probably the 3-ish option, depending on how things shook out. He has said, not a huge deal, could have pitched through it. No need to do that right now, so we look for his return quickly. More logic behind this. The Cubs don't require a 5th starter in that rotation due to the scheduled off day early until like April 16th. So that gave Ross major flexibility with how he aligned his pitching staff and the roster as well. Okay, so how would this have looked different pitching-wise? I just touched on it for a second. Alzolay surely would have been given a rotation spot unless he just absolutely imploded in Mesa this year. He figured to be part of the back end of that rotation, maybe a long swingman if he struggled this spring. Really wanted to get him healthy, really wanted to see what he had and slot him into that rotation, but unfortunately we'll have to wait. Cody Hoyer, Brad Wick surely would be valuable pieces at the back end of that bullpen as well. Big pieces that are unfortunately out. So that is how that landscape pitcher-wise kind of shook out. Infielders, you're carrying 6. You got 2 on the shelf. David Bodie, 60-day injured list with all the issues he's been dealing with from last year. And also Andrelton Simmons, who we mentioned a while ago. He should be back relatively soon. Who joined those 2 now that are on the shelf? Nick Madrigal, our boy, Nico Hoerner, Patrick Wisdom, Frank Schwindel, Jonathan Villar, and Alfonso Rivas. No super big surprises here, I don't think, in terms of how the opening day roster shook out, right? Tell me if I'm wrong. Villar is going to be the primary backup to Hoerner at short until Simmons is ready with the arm. But other than that, nothing crazy. Like that group a lot. Gives you some flexibility. You got Simmons as a natural shortstop. Great glove, man. One of the better defensive shortstops to ever play. He can play a little second base. You've got Hoerner at short. Madrigal can play second as well. You're going to see VR up the middle. You're going to see VR at third. Lots of flexibility for David Ross, and that's super key. Outfielders, 6 of them. Everybody healthy. Ian Happ, Jason Hayward, newcomer Seiya Suzuki, Michael Hermosillo, Rafael Ortega, and also newcomer Clint Frazier, who I'm really, really stoked about. 40 home run potential maybe in him if he got enough ABs. I mean, this guy could really, really blossom into the player that we all thought he was going to be when he was a first-round pick. This is log jam city, right? You're carrying 6 outfielders. Here's why. A lot of these guys are going to, I don't want to use the word platoon because that's not the right thing to say. A lot of these guys are going to get designated hitter at bats. So that changes the landscape of this significantly, especially a guy like Frazier, who you figure, not the best defensive left fielder. Figure to see him in the lineup as much as possible against the right matchups because of what you have talent-wise, and it's likely going to be in the DH role. Now, Jason Hayward got the opening start yesterday. In all honesty, you have to hope that he has somewhat of a shorter leash, especially with the outfield depth you have, if he doesn't produce early. Hermosillo and Ortega figure to slot in routinely when the matchups favor such a move, a la Ortega versus right-handers, which we know typically bodes very well for him and the Cubs. But again, this DH changes the whole landscape, hence carrying the 6 outfielders and the slotting in when matchups are right. You're going to see a little bit of rotation there, figuring Seiya Suzuki will be the primary guy in right field. However, catchers, leave them alone. If it ain't broke, you know the drill. Don't fix it. Yan Gomes, Wilson Contreras, best catching tandem in the National League, if not all of Major League Baseball. We love it. Listen, it's all about health. Cubs, not bitten too badly. I mean, they've got some significant arm injuries, but given the short spring and the dealings that some teams are having to go through with injury, always could have been worse, right? But Hoyer and Wick and Miley, key parts, wishing them the quickest and best recoveries as we move forward. Game 2 later on today, Cubs Brewers on the north side. How good has Justin Steele been at Wrigley Field in his young Cubs career? We'll highlight that shortly. Before we do, want to remind you that betonline.net is your #1 source for all of your betting needs and sports information. Find all the latest sports developments, including, are you pumped for this week's Masters Championship odds podcast and reviews for all the different leagues all season long. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Game 2 preview coming up. Welcome back into Locked On Cubs. I'm your host, Andrew Bellison. Thank you for taking the time to join us here today on a wonderful Friday morning. We want to get you to the weekend. 4 120 Cubs games in a row. Cubs Crew, Wrigley Field. That is good stuff. I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll say it again. 80 of the 81 home games should be 120s with one random noon Saturday game in the middle of July just for fun. Love afternoon baseball. Listen, we're lucky as Cubs fans to be able to still have that. Game 2 later on today. No rest for the weary. First of all, more chilly temps expected to be upper 30s, 39, 40 degrees. Hey, it's April ball in Chicago. You know the drill. And another stud on the hill for the Brewers. They have a lot of them. It's Brandon Woodruff, who's been excellent, as a matter of fact, in his career at Wrigley Field. Last year especially, made 3 starts against the Cubs at Wrigley alone last year, was 1-0, tossed 16 innings, gave up only 5 hits in those 16 innings, and 1 run. And it wasn't earned. Unbelievable. So he has been very, very good. 0 ERA against the Cubs at Wrigley last year. Whiffed 19 guys, walked only 5. Surely not an easy guy to face, especially in the elements, but that's part of the game. On the flip, really exciting. We get to see the youngster and the southpaw. I've got that lefty bias. I told you, Justin Steele toes the rubber for the Cubs in game 2. Just 26 years old, starts game 2 for your Cubs against the Brewers. Had a really, really great spring. 1-0, 2.70 ERA, started 3 games, went 6 2/3, gave up only a couple of runs. The walks were somewhat of an issue for Steele, and he struck out 5 but walked 7. So obviously that would be the key to look at. Our keys to the game: keep the ball down, keep the ball in, maybe with the colder weather, but obviously location, location, location. Can't give a team like the Brewers, not that they're an offensive powerhouse, but can't give them any freebies, and surely don't want to get behind early with a guy like Brandon Woodruff on the mound. So control and command will be huge for Steele, as I know the nerves will be flying, but he will be out there tomorrow for the Cubs. Looking forward to seeing him pitch. I think we're going to see good things from the southpaw. He'll be followed by Stroh on Saturday, which we'll highlight a little bit as well. And then on Sunday, Drew Smyly makes his Cubs debut in 2022. 4-gamer for the Cubs against the Crew rolls on from Chicago's north side. Game 2, just a little while later on this afternoon. 1:20 gets you to the weekend. Hope you had a great week. Hope you're enjoying opening day week as much as we are here at Locked On Cubs. And I want to thank you again for making us your first listen each and every morning. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, Sully we call him, brings you his unique perspective on the major leagues, past and present. Free and available wherever you source your favorite cast. Have an awesome weekend. Enjoy every second of it. Cubs Brewers doesn't get any better. Regular season baseball is back. Until Monday, be well.